Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
It's really true, is it really true?
just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geri Petito Show. Everyone and anyone who knows me knows I am the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smart ass than a dumbass. Because, guys, 32 years ago, I was a dumbass. But today, 32 years later, through the grace of God, I can honestly say now I'm a smart ass. And yes, the word ass is in the Bible, at least 40 times, and it means donkey, and that's what I was. I'm saying all that to say this. You know, we've all had the roughest few years of our lives, right? All over the world, not just here. And I'm here to tell everyone that someone is listening. You know, if you're struggling with addiction or anything, I'm also a nutritional health coach. I'm also a recovery coach. Health issues, anything, I am listening. And all my services to you are free. Please know that you're not alone, and please, please reach out to me. If you think my book can help someone, because I sure do, you can go right to Simon & Schuster's bookstore, Archway Publishing, BAM, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and go to my website, I'm having a sore throat issue here, guys, www.geripetito.com. And please subscribe to the Geri Petito Show YouTube channel. Now listen, if you truly, truly, truly cannot afford my book, please, please reach out to me about that as well. Okay? So guys, I have two beautiful guests here. Before I introduce them, I would like to just give a shout out to a couple of my sponsors today. Okay? So first and foremost, Paula Ann from Ablaze Entertainment and Freedom Rings Festival, helping survivors of human trafficking to live a life of normalcy. The Geri Petito Show is also one of their sponsors. www.freedomringsfestival.com. Please check it out, okay? What she's doing is just incredible and amazing to help these people. And then Anthony Hudson, presidential candidate 2024. And Kevin Duncan, vice presidential candidate 2024. People before politics. Now, guys, I don't usually get involved with politics, but the reason I said yes to this last year was because they're running nonpartisan, first off. Second, I got to meet them. So not only did they come live in studio a couple times, and we've done some commercials for them, I brought them along, and they're now part of Hamilton Radio as well. So we're really getting them noticed. But the other producer, Ruben, and myself were also invited this past year to go to Yuma, Arizona to meet with them at the borders. All the borders, good, bad, and indifferent. And we spent 4 or 5 days there with Border Patrol Sheriff Department, and it changed my life what we saw. We got to hug the children. We got to see what's really, truly going on. This guy, Anthony's only in his late 40s. He's a truck driver from Michigan. He's a regular guy. Trust me, I would not have gotten involved if I didn't think he can do something worthwhile. All right, Anthony Hudson for president. Having said that, I want to give a proper introduction to these ladies. So I'm going to have Danielle and Beth. I want you guys to tell everyone who you are, say your names properly, and then we'll begin.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having Beth and I on today. My name is Danielle Modafferi. I write with my best friend and writing partner, Beth Merlin. And so we have co-authored together. We're working on our 9th book, but we just had the very lucky fortune of celebrating our release of our first novel, traditionally published. It's called The Last Phone Booth in Manhattan. And we're really excited to talk to you about it, especially as a New Yorker. I'm sure that you will have some particular insight on some of the things that we've included. But yeah, we've been writing together for the past decade in a couple of different capacities, which I can tell you a little bit more about. Is there anything, Beth, that you want to chime in? I don't want to hog you up.
No, I think all that sounds great. As Danielle mentioned, we've been co-authoring together for a little over 10 years. It's probably the thing people are most curious about. And Geri, you wrote a book, so you can probably chime in on your process. But, to be able to co-author is a really unique thing when you're, writing, and, probably the thing we get the most questions about. So happy to kind of share what our process is like there.
So, okay, I want to introduce this guy right here. He's going to co-host with me today. Thanks for helping me out.
You're welcome.
This is Doc G, everyone. He was the original owner here of Hamilton Radio. Started this over 20 years ago in his basement. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, I started it in my basement pretty much over 20-something years ago, 26, 27 years ago. And it's grown to a lot of proportions. I mean, helped a lot of people and sharing a lot of stuff with Geri, and a lot of the hosts have really loved what we've been doing, and appreciate doing it, and I'm glad to do it. Same thing with Anthony Hudson. I just want to mention that we do an Anthony Hudson. He does People Before Politics show at I believe it's 6 o'clock on Saturdays. Yeah, and join us for that. He's on his YouTube channel, which is Hudson 2K24.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we're glad to do that, and we're pretty much the only media doing that for him. So I'm glad to do that. So
amazing.
Thank you for letting me be here, and I'm glad to be here.
So now, ladies, again, forgive me for my sore throat. So your book, okay? First of all, I love it. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
And reading it just cracked me up because I'm a New Yorker. But I want to know where you guys got that title from. Tell everyone the title of it and what's on the cover.
Yeah. It's called The Last Phone Booth in Manhattan. And it was actually we wrote a book before this that had helped us to get our agent that we have now. And then that book kind of went out on submission, and we got some really great feedback, but we just didn't get a bite. And so we said, well, what do we do now? And our agent said, well, you write the next book. And we were like, wait, that's it for that? What happens? And so we went back to the drawing board, and we were kind of ruminating on what to write and throwing around some ideas. And Beth had come across an article in the newspaper that was about the last phone booth in Manhattan that was going to be taken away and put in a museum, I guess, item of antiquity, and moved. And Beth forwarded it to me, and she said, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but I got chills when I read this headline. And I think there's something magical. It feels like a cool name. And I agreed. I said, let's talk it out. Let's see what this phone booth can do. And, we kind of took it from there. So we do get a lot of inspiration from news articles and things. Even Breakup Boot Camp is based on an actual boot camp. It's another book that we wrote. So Beth, is there anything else you wanted to add? You have some good stuff in there.
Yeah, as Danielle mentioned, we're just kind of scrolling. I saw the article. I grew up in New York, and I can't tell you the number of times I had to find a payphone to tell my parents that I was going to miss the Long Island Railroad train that I had told them I was going to be on to come home from the city, and was, rushing around to find a phone to let them know not to expect me, because, of course, I didn't grow up with cell phones. They came a little bit later. So it just seemed crazy to me that icon would be gone from New York. So we started to toss around the idea of what that phone booth could be. Could it be all the different people who used it over the years? Could it be something magical? Could it be, any number of things? And we started to toss around We had the opening chapters of this book. We had kind of started it for a totally different idea. Our agent responded really, really positively to those chapters, so we were trying to salvage them, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Trying to have, some chapters fit a plot that doesn't exist yet. But our agent loved the opening chapters and mentioned it was some of the, best first chapters she'd read in a really long time. So we were trying to make that work with a different story idea. And then we started tossing around the idea of, okay, what if the phone booth takes the main character back to the past, but maybe not literally, some sort of time travel book, but what if it directs her to a person in the past? And then the minute I think that idea came up, we started ruminating on the idea of a Christmas Carol. And then it was like past, present, future. Okay, maybe she has several encounters with this phone booth, and it takes her to different places she's meant to re-examine, or different things she's meant to re-examine in her life. And then I think once we landed on the Christmas Carol retelling, or kind of loosely tied to, it became a lot easier because we sort of understood the threads of the story that we were trying to tell and could tie it to a lot of fun New York holiday Christmas things. And since the book had already opened, sort of coincidentally, the opening chapter, we opened it on Christmas Eve with a proposal. Having that tie into a Christmas Carol felt kind of like the right thing. And then it was just a lot of spitballing after that, and how we could tie in little, nuggets from a Christmas Carol. And we landed on the quote, or I think Danielle found the quote, no space of
regret can make amends for one life's opportunity misused. And it sounds like a big mouthful, but basically, if we misuse our life, then we're going to, have some regrets and some sliding door kind of moments where we wish we would have maybe taken a different road. And I think that that's where Avery lands. It's really interesting, too, just to specify the kind of book that it is marketed, or was, at least when we had gotten a promotion last month before the release in the Amazon First Reads. It was an editor's pick in all of romance, which was really exciting. So our book came out. It was scheduled to release January 1st, but it came out as a pre-release through this Amazon First Reads program, which was incredible. But as a romance, and we like to say it's kind of more of an untraditional or an unconventional romance. We tend to write a little bit more women's fiction, but that's not really like a term anymore. It used to be called like chick lit, but that's not really a term anymore either. But more female-centric romance is absolutely a plot element, and is an important plot element. But it really is about our protagonist's agency and her own story, and what a happily ever after would mean for her in terms of fulfilling her dream, her goal. And if she gets the relationship, it's the cherry on the top, and most of our books, all of our books are kind of formulated in that vein. I think that's a really important message for us as women, as Beth has a daughter, beautiful daughter. I have two sisters. I am a teacher. I taught for a long time in an all-girls school. So those kinds of things are really important for us, and is definitely part of our brand. I hope I'm not speaking too much, Geri, but I wanted to speak on one thing that you had said earlier during your introduction about, these past couple of years being the roughest years that we've seen in a really long time. Beth and I would never set out to write the next great American novel. We're not looking to solve anything cataclysmic with the book. We really wanted it to be a fun escape that had deep meaning. It has definitely some heart. We like to call our brand fluff with stuff. So that stuff, there's still some deep element. There's still some kind of, I don't know how, heart, I guess, to it. Real story, but it's more drama, not trauma. And we wanted it to be fun and light and escapist. And some of the things are silly and a little ridiculous, but all the things have their function in the story. Yeah, that's why we have a blast writing it. We get a kick out of reading that people are having a good time reading it, or feeling particular emotions when they read it. That really touches our heart. So it's been very cool to see the process, as people have been reading it and enjoying it. So
Before I comment on what you guys were saying, let's give a shout out to John Bishop and Linny, because I love
Yes!
them and they were our connection. We love
yes,
you. And they're doing an incredible job with the entertainment luncheon. And they've been posting this ad, and now they're going to have the show in there. And I just love you guys, and they love you, and we all love you. So
I
thank
know.
you.
The support has
John
been
and
so
Lenny.
wonderful.
Yes, he's
I'm really
amazing.
grateful.
Amazing what they do. Thank
I
you
know.
guys.
Yes, thank you.
I want to ask you guys something, and then I'll give the mic to Doc G. Because I'm a New Yorker, because I remember the phone booths, are there any left anywhere as like, what would the word be, to keep it, you know
No,
what
I'm
I'm
trying
talking
to think
about?
I'm trying to.
Like, are there any left where
Like it's like a
saying-
monument or
Yes,
like a
thank you.
right. Like,
Anything, anywhere?
No, I mean, the last note in our book is an author's note, which says on May 23rd, 2022, the last phone booth in New York City was removed from its post on 7th Avenue and West 50th Street, just north of Times Square, and moved to the Museum of the City of New York. So you can visit it in a museum, but there are no more actual phone booths in, the proper city of Manhattan, maybe off the island, but
What I would have done if I was New York
mm-hmm.
was I would have put one in the museum, of course, but I would have left one and had it locked and had it done beautifully with
Of course.
lights around it and right?
I agree. I feel like it's a standing kind of piece of history right in the
Okay.
middle of the city where it belongs. I'm with you.
I feel like London is holding on to their phone booths because it's
Good.
definitely a little more of an icon of their city. So
I
you still
was
find the
in
red
London
phone
and I
booths.
saw phone booths. I wish I would
Yeah.
have gotten photos now, Doc G, what would you like to say?
Does your book delve into different of the reason why? Of course, a lot of the phone booths were there was for conversations, but does it delve into anything like that as far as the type of ideas, who was talking on there, when, where? I mean, that's all ideas I would have.
We talked a lot about that initially in our first couple iterations of what we wanted this story to be. It didn't turn into that as much. It was really kind of a vehicle for the magic. And we really don't go too much into why this magic kind of exists in this phone booth. It really just is this last phone booth, and it has its own magic. It's not a deity. It's not a, solar flare. It just is. It just is. And so unfortunately, I wish that we kind of, maybe it's a story for another day, but I'm sure there are a lot of conversations and things that would be really interesting to explore through that, or the function of it over the years. But we did,
yeah, we tossed it around. I think it would have been a little more of what, they call like a literary fiction type book if we had gone into kind of a deeper, and we played around with the idea of, different people in different decades using the phone for different reasons. There probably is a good book there, but just wasn't the one, I think at that point in time we, felt like writing. But I feel like this is a super interesting kind of related anecdote. So once, an agent decides to take you on and take your book on,
Right.
the next step is that it goes out to submission to a lot of different editors at different, publishing houses. And, there are lots of different reasons why an editor responds or doesn't respond to material. It might be too close to something else they've acquired. It's just not their taste. They just didn't connect with the character. I mean, all valid. And certainly, we did get rejections based on that feedback. We did, however, get one rejection that sticks out because it was solely based on the fact that this editor didn't think her children who are of college age or anybody really younger than that would even know what a phone booth was. And so they wouldn't find any of the book relevant or interesting, or, felt like it couldn't be sold based on the fact that she was pretty certain that, anyone sort of college age or younger wouldn't have the first clue what what a phone booth was. So Danielle and I tested the theory, and we asked my daughter, who's 9, we asked her nephews, we asked.
Students, right.
Most people do know what a phone booth is. They may not have used one, but it's kind of like a butter churn. Like, I've never used one, but I know what one is. But that piece of feedback was definitely kind of funny to us that, you know.
right.
And that's kind of the whole point of the book. Like, it is the last one for a reason. And, but yeah, that was tough.
So I want to say something about what you just said, because I can. I'm not okay with that publisher saying that to you. Okay, and this is why. So I don't know how old you ladies are, and I don't mind saying how old I am. I'm going to be 63, and I grew up in Long Island City, New York, and I moved out of there when I was 12 years old. But I went back to art school in Manhattan in 79. So I'm a New Yorker. You can't take that out of me, baby. Okay, I've been in Jersey for 50 years, but I'm a New Yorker. But here's the other thing. I also do a lot of interviews with singers, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are from the 50s and the doo-wop era.
And New York too.
Okay, yeah, that's right. And they're up in age, and I'll never stop. And I'm going to share something with you, ladies. What you did was great, regardless of any negative feedback, because I've asked some young singers as young as 8 and 9 years old, indie artists that are incredible that I've interviewed, and I ask them all the same question. I always say, what do you guys think about the oldies? I know you know about the oldies. What do you think about Elvis? What do you think about doo-wop? Every one of them, in their own words, will say something like, if it wasn't for that music, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing now. So these young people with their cell phones, okay, that's probably really cool to them. Seeing a phone booth and them thinking, a phone booth? What was that? To me, I think they would think that's really cool and want to read what it was about. And especially their parents, right? The parents would be like, this is really cool. Come on, sit on my lap. Come here, sit next to me, and let me tell you about this. So I'm glad that didn't deter you ladies, and you did it anyway. What do you think, Doc G?
Oh, I agree. I think that the Times also, because I'm a part of the music industry as well, a lot of the artists focused, and they had songs about phone booths, and which was really weird. It's not, you won't hear all of them, but a lot of them did. So the technology, the artists pulled from the technology, and the artists like to bring that out to people. So even a phone booth itself, it is in its own entity.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love the fact about the conversations, though I think that would have been even more expressive.
Someone
the
should
teens,
write it.
right? The teens that called home and said, "Hey, I made it to Manhattan. I got a job. I'm happy."
Yep.
The positive spin on that, and the ones that made to college. There's so many positive spins you could put on that too.
And the guys having affairs, calling their girlfriends. All right,
Yeah.
listen, all the craziness that went on in those phone booths, I'm sure,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the craziness that also went on in those phone booths. Okay, but
Crimes as well. Yes.
so I'm going to give the mic to you, ladies. The mic is yours. Talk about anything else, any of your other books, what's happening, where you're going, anything you want, the mic is yours.
Okay.
Sure.
Beth, do you mind if I start?
Please, yeah.
Okay. I was going to just say that Beth and I, as I said, we started writing about 10 years ago, but the way I met Beth, I think, is really, to me, remarkable. And Beth and I have such a symbiotic and complementary writing style and collaborative style that a lot of people ask about, writing together and co-authoring. And I come right out and say, I don't think it's for everyone. I think absolutely it's worth a shot and give it a go. But it really does, require a particular set of complementary skills and whatnot. And so the way that Beth and I kind of came into one another's lives, I feel like is just so serendipitous that it bears repeating. And so back in the day, I graduated with my degree in writing popular fiction, my master's of fine arts in writing popular fiction, and with the intention of continuing, I'm a high school teacher, continuing to use that to write, But really to teach collegiately, I just wanted the credentials to kind of continue to write and move forward, etc. But after I wrote a book, which was my thesis for my Master's of Fine Arts, I was like, oh my God, that was really hard. I never want to do that again. That was brutal. So I decided that instead, I wanted to look at the publishing side, and I started an indie publishing company called Firefly Hill Press. And I really knew very little about it. It took a year to kind of research and figure out what this even means. And then all of a sudden, I started taking submissions, which means, kind of opened up the doors and said, hey, if you've got a great story for me, this is what I'm looking for. And if you've got one, please send it my way. And I was rifling through what's called the slush pile, unagented manuscripts. And Beth came into my inbox. And Beth, too, was on her own pursuit of finding representation. She'd gone to conferences and talked to editors and had a couple bites here and there. But I was trying to really be very selective about my first project. It was going to be representative of my company, and also, I was very new, so I was really apprehensive to jump in. I didn't know if I had what it took to do it, and but the timing, the stars, all of it aligned. And I was very honest with Beth and said, hey, I'm not really sure, how you feel about this, but you will be my first and only signed author, which means that there's going to be a learning curve, and I'm willing to learn it together and let's do it. But you're also my only writer on my docket. So you have all my attention. And Beth says, you know what, let's do it. I think that we aligned similarly in terms of the vision for the book, and just kind of, as we said, our brand was very kind of spot on. And I had gone through actually personal relationship thing that I saw in the pages of what she had written. And I was like, she gets me. And it was just weird. I couldn't write it because it was too personal, it was too hard at that moment, but I saw it in her pages and there was some kind of connection there. So long story short, we ended up developing the Campfire series together, which had a very interesting kind of trajectory on its own. It's a 3-book trilogy. Once More Summer. I'm sorry. Yes. Well, it starts as 3 books, and then we have an extra 4th book supplement, which is from the male's point of view in between 2 books. It tells his side of the story.
That's probably really short, his side, right?
No, it's good.
No,
No,
it's actually
I'm being funny.
Yeah. No, full length.
You didn't
novel.
catch the humor. When Johnny B listens, he's going to catch it. His
I
side,
know.
very short, right?
But what's so great about it is it's very much on brand for us. If you like The Last Phone Booth in Manhattan, which of course features a phone booth, but we didn't even get into talking about the fact that Avery is really the protagonist in The Last Phone Booth, is in pursuit of pursuing her Broadway dreams. Broadway is very close to Beth and my heart. We are very enthusiastic musical theater lovers. And so the Campfire series has a lot of that in there too. And the character, the male point of view, that 4th book, it's kind of based on Lin-Manuel Miranda. And together, he writes this musical called Elizabeth, which is almost like a feminist kind of take on Hamilton, right? And her story, and the love triangle that in the musical that he writes very much parallels what happens on the page with the love triangle between Gigi, the main character, Perry, the male, Lin-Manuel, and this pursuit for fame that can you have love and fame or position, right? As Elizabeth did. She was longing for Robert Dudley, but she really had to stay loyal to her crown. So what we see on stage is happening on the page. And we see that also in Phone Booth with the play On a Christmas Carol. Avery is auditioning for a role in a show that we made up called Marley is Dead, based on A Christmas Carol. So there's very much a play on theater and a play within a play. We love kind of things like that. And so that's really special to us. And so anyone who's a fan of musical theater and Broadway and that kind of scene, these are books for you.
I have to share something with you. My daughter's sister from her dad, he passed away this year, guys. Very sad at 60 years old. But his wife and I have been best friends since we were 11 or 12 years old. So her daughter Taylor, my daughter's sister, is a Rockette. She's been a Rockette for many, many years. So Taylor
So
Shimko
cool.
is the
Get
Rockette.
out of
So I knew
here.
you'd smile.
Well, Taylor might enjoy this book because I think that she'll probably understand it from a very like insular place. One of my best friends who did the audiobooks for one of our books, Ashley Demain, who I just adore. She too she works as an actress and was working in New York as an actress, and she read it and she texted me. She said, I wish, this was just so magical for me as a working actor, as someone who lived in New York, trying to make it. I saw it from that perspective, but you don't have to be that person either. So I think that there's a lot to enjoy, hopefully, about it beyond that. But we definitely it's very Broadway heavy. And so some people who don't love Broadway and theater and that kind of thing, that might not be your cup of tea, and that's okay. But, we definitely have that as an element that kind of courses through a lot of our work.
So Beth, what would you like to say now?
Oh, yeah, just kind of echoing what Danielle said, and because it's probably the question that we get asked most often, which is how we write together. I mean, the process answer is we use Zoom and a Google Doc, and we typically set up, writing sessions. We both have what we call day jobs, right? So the things that pay the bills. Writing is, a passion hobby that hopefully, will ultimately be more than that. But we, so we have to find time super early in the morning, late at night, weekends, where we jump on, Zoom calls like this, and we kind of work out of the same Google Doc. But more than that, more than the obvious, process of it, it's about not being super precious about your words or your work. I think if you are that person who is going to get really hung up on somebody else, deleting a sentence because they think there's a better way to do it, probably not for you, right? To sort of co-author. If you're somebody who, only can see your specific vision or outcome of a story and isn't willing to kind of hear someone else's interpretation of how it could go, probably not for you. We have, as you can probably tell just from like the way the interview is going, right? We have very different personalities. Danielle is lots of description, lots of flowery language, right? And so in terms of our writing, sort of similar. I'm a little more of the, architect of the story. I kind of move through, the plot points and lay them out, and, we'll often kind of put the very sort of straightforward dialogue, what needs to happen to kind of move the story forward. And then Danielle, much like, the interior designer, comes in and makes it really beautiful with a little more description and color and adjectives. And so for us, that's kind of the magic of our partnership, is that we're not similar in our styles. And so I think, as Danielle would probably acknowledge, she sometimes can get lost in the descriptions and the flowers and the things. And all of a sudden she started over here and she's way down over there. I'm much more like, what are we doing? We have to keep the ball moving forward. Mm-hmm. So I sort of, lay the road, and then she, plants the pretty flowers, and that, method works really well for us. But again, I don't know how you set out to find somebody you can write with. For us, it just sort of happened. But it makes us able to write you write much faster, certainly when you're writing with somebody than, on your own. And I think our stories are stronger for the fact that, we're both bringing a specific perspective to them. And it's more fun. I mean, writing can be a really lonely, sort of isolating activity. Yeah. It's just your laptop, in a room. And for us, we feel fortunate we get to kind of talk and bounce ideas off each other, and it's fun. It's social. It doesn't feel so lonely and so hard. And if we get stuck, we're stuck together, and we can bounce things off each other. So, I don't know. We've talked about down the road putting out some sort of book for people interested in co-authoring and kind of, how that can work. But that's sort of our process. So I don't know if you've any more to share on that.
It's been very it's had its own evolution too, which has been really cool. I wanted to just actually bring up, I think the way we really locked in, we were working with the Campfire series and developing the series, but we had the very cool and fortunate, amazing opportunity to have the Campfire series optioned for film. And this was years ago, right before, not too long before COVID. Unfortunately, I think that's what derailed us all. But we had gotten optioned, and at the time, the producer was working with, had a right of first refusal with a big company. Oh, actually, I probably can say it was. I think it was Sony, but it was a big company for feature-length films. So we were putting together pitches for movie based on the first book in the series called Once More Summer. And then that producer left and moved to a different production company. And so took us and the project with her, but that company had right of first refusal with
Netflix, more serial, episodic.
Right. So then we had to reconstruct our pitch and our whole concept to be of the whole series and be more slated for television and episodes. But we'd never written a screenplay before. We'd never written a pilot episode before, but we were kind of thrown in and we said, you know what? Why not? We can both write and we're willing to learn. And I'm sure it's not going to be perfect, but let's give it a try. And so we wrote a pilot episode. We got some counsel from someone we had made connections with. He was the scriptwriter with on Breaking Bad. He had done some writing, so had some experience, and it was really cool to just learn in that way. So Beth and I knew the story so well, and then we had to kind of in tandem write this pilot script that was very foreign to us. And then
like a season breakdown of what the episodes would be
like, and the whole series or the season arc and then the series arc and all of it. And it was just a very cool experience. And we were pitching to some really big names. We were like, oh my God, Beth, like, what is happening right now? Is this happening? And then unfortunately, obviously in a very bigger sense, COVID kind of waylaid everything. And so then again, we were back at the drawing board. We've gotten a lot of no's and a lot of not right now or the universe kind of taking us in a different direction. But at the heart of it, Beth and I love to write together. So whether we get a no, and I think that I really attribute this to Beth, I'm a little bit more of a wait and see. And Beth is like, let's send it now. Let's do it now. Who can we contact? And I think that
I have to interrupt you, and I don't usually do this, but wait, because I have to comment on what you just said. I would have thought it was the opposite. Your personality is more like me. Her personality is more like my daughter. I'm more like, let's do it. I don't care. Let's just see. And my daughter would be like, no, let's make sure it's perfect. Let's wait. But
That's Danielle.
That doesn't make sense with your personality, right, Beth?
I'm very, I'm not as, like my husband is a complete extrovert, right? So two of him or two of me wouldn't be great, but we're obviously a good team together. But I'm super persistent. Like I will keep trying to figure out that nut until I crack it.
Can see that in you.
So so it's not that I necessarily am waving my hands like, the biggest, but I'm much more like, I don't have the patience. So I'll keep pushing us to move it forward.
Very cool. Doc G, would you like
less emotional about it? I don't know. Just
less emotional. Yeah. I could see that part. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Doc G, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, both of you ladies, both of you have that unique personality, which I love. It's very distinct. But at the same time, I'm both of you. Because I'm you that say, wait a minute, let's see this. And then I'm also, let's get this done. So I understand the uniqueness of it, but it's very conflicting sometimes. And, you have to work within your boundaries of what you can do and who you know. Right now, I'm a film festival judge for the 2024 International Film Festival. in April.
Wow.
And
Oh.
I'm really excited about that because it's my first year. But it's all the films like you're talking about, the same type of films that are these books that people had an idea, and the idea caught wind, really, right? And then all of a sudden, now it's visual. And when it's visual, it takes a whole nother level, just a different level. You just take your book and put it on another level. And how much more can you put into that? You know, how many other things can you change and move characters around? And it just amazes me when you have the ability that you ladies have to do certain things like that. And being that you were going to get into films, I'm probably, her and I are probably two people that we can at least have it checked out or looked at and then see if people are
That'd be
interested.
wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so I'm always willing to do that for anybody, if friends or anybody. So
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, we will absolutely take you up on that. It's been a really cool learning experience, and I feel like that's one thing that in grad school I took away most. Of course, you know, craft and things like that, but was the community of it. And I think that that's why I did not enjoy writing the book by myself as much as I love writing. I wrote that book by myself that first time around, and I was like, this isn't for me. And it wasn't the writing. I think it was the insular, very solitary act of it. I want to collaborate. I want to share ideas. I want to be creative with someone. I want to, you know, have this be an experience that's kind of social. And so that's why when you know, Beth and I kind of found one another and we were able to talk through these plot points and, you know, talk through these characters and these opportunities and, you know, for different stories, that is what made us come alive. And it's been very cool and very fun.
Well,
I would say, oh, sorry, just
no,
the
go ahead, Beth.
publishing,
Go ahead.
just the publishing industry in general, you know, is probably similar to the, you know, and we experience the entertainment industry and kind of that whole process of trying to sell a pilot, right? These are tough doors to get through, maybe rightly so, right? I think, what is it, Danielle, like less than 1% of every book out there gets published or something. And so, you know, you have to be pretty tenacious and you have to really, you know, set goals for yourself, right? So my first goal was, you know, I just want to see what I did somewhere out in the world. I didn't have a particular like audience size in mind, right? So hooked up with Danielle, who at that point had an indie press, and I was really happy to just see, you know, the book in a book form, right? And that was enough at that moment. And then it's kind of setting the next goal of let's try and do this in a bigger way and get the agent and all the steps to getting there. And then the agent has to sell to the publisher. And then, you know, maybe you get something like the Amazon First Reads like we got. So it's not hard and say, oh, I think I could write a book. Probably can, but you have to sit down. You have to, you know, be willing to not get caught up in the next idea while you're somewhere in the middle of that idea, which is very tempting when you're struggling with the idea that you're working on. So all of a sudden a new fresh idea comes and you're like, oh, that would be much easier, right? And you give up on what you're doing and start again because you'll never finish, you know, anything. It's about, you know, taking that idea from start to finish, which is harder than it sounds. Because the idea is going to put up roadblocks and challenges and make you think it's a bad one. And, but just taking it to the finish line and then, you know, figuring out the next step. So that's, you know, a lot of, I think, where that drive comes. I mean, this is 10 plus years of trying to get things out into the world, that you're just, you know, it's that idea of just say yes to opportunities, right? Like Danielle said, you know, I have this contact with this radio show with this, I don't think it's about writing, but she wants to talk to us about her book. Of course. Yeah. Let's say yes and see what that's about.
yeah, Beth, that's what I learned. Never say no
Yeah.
to nothing because you
Yeah.
don't know the opportunity or where it's going to take you.
Never say never, baby.
Right, exactly.
That's so true. And you don't know who like you're going to be introduced to
Right.
through that opportunity. And it has nothing to do with like being an opportunist
No.
and like, what can I get from that person? But like on a human level,
Yeah. Say yes. Have the experience.
Go have an experience.
I want to share something with you from the past with writing. Okay, sort of like your phone book thing.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know how old you guys are, but from hearing you never went
I
into
mean, we can, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
How old are you
43.
ladies?
I'm
Yeah, I was
43.
turned 40.
Okay, my daughter's going to be 43. Okay, so you could call me mom. All right. So anyway, back in the day, I'm an artist. I always loved art. So even as a little kid, my parents couldn't stop me from drawing, and right, 24/7. So I was in, I don't know if it was 8th grade. It might have been 8th grade, and I was told that I had to do something creative for language arts. So I wanted to do something with my art, but I wanted to write a poem, and that was going to be the first poem I ever wrote. So I'm in my bed, I'm a little kid, right? And I've got an orange bag on the floor, and I was writing all night and rolling them up and throwing them in the bag. I couldn't do it. I wake up in the wee hours of the morning because I hear a noise inside the bag, like you would think maybe a rat was in there. I hear k-k-k-k. I get up real calm and I get my camera. I always took pictures. And it was my cat inside the bag. And when I have this photo to this day in my phone and framed, okay? And my cat looked up, right, through the papers. The body was in the bag. And I got that photo. And in less than a minute, I wrote this poem. I saw a bag just lying there with papers all inside. I knew it'd be a real swell place for me to sit and hide. I heard some noise. I saw some feet, looked up and got all flustered. Okay? And then I turn around and then I hear, hey, you're busted. Okay? So that was the beginning. I never stopped writing after that. And I got some poems published back in the day. But back in the day, we mailed them to the companies. Okay, and they're in books. I got the books. Okay, so I'm going to share something with you about my book. I can never write with anyone, okay, but I have friends. I'll say, okay, tell me what you think it is. I could do that. All right, so in 2016, I don't know your spiritual, what you believe in spiritually, but I'm a Christian. And in 2016, I got woken up, and I kid you not, by like a loud voice, write your book. So my dad had Alzheimer's at the time, and me and my brother took care of him. And I would fast every year for a month, a juice fast day in my house, lock myself in my house and fast. So my family was used to this for like 30 years. So I didn't tell anyone in my family, not even my daughter, I was going to write this book. So I'm laughing, and I'm like, all right, God, you want me to write the book? I'll write the book. So anyway, long story short, I call my brother. I'm like, listen, you're on dad duty this month. I'm writing this. I said, Dad, you're on dad duty. I'm fasting. He's like, okay. Long story short, I handwrite it. I'm not like you ladies. I couldn't do it with a computer. So I did it the old-fashioned way, and I handwrote this book. And I say to this day, God wrote this book because it was written in 3 weeks. And,
That's quick.
and I'm not kidding you. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. God wrote this book. And I call my friend up, whose uncle, who's gone now, but he was a publisher back in the day. And I said, listen, Andrea, you got to come over. You're not going to believe this. I wrote a book, but you got to, like, get it in the computer. And she's like, oh, my gosh, sure. So she does it for me. She does the perfect format. She said, switch this, change this. So I listened, So we got it in. And then she says, now listen, Geri, we have to send this to a ton of publishers because they may not love it. It might take years, I said, no, God wrote the book. I hear Simon & Schuster. She laughed, and she said, all right. I said, now listen, put your name and number on it as well so that, because the tech part I'm terrible at. She's like, okay. 5 days later, I kid you not, I get a call. It's her and I on the phone with Simon & Schuster.
Oh my God.
Incredible.
I'm not
That is
kidding you.
incredible.
That's why. To this day, I don't care. I could cry. I don't take credit for this book. So the woman says, Geri, are you? My friend says, Geri, are you sitting down? I said, yeah, it's Simon & Schuster. They want to publish the book. God wrote it. And the woman happened to be a Christian. She said, Geri, God wrote this book for sure, and I love this book. So long story short, it was published immediately. But a lot of good also came out of the years we were stuck in with COVID. She made a little mistake and did something. And Simon & Schuster said, listen, revise it. I don't care if you have 200 more pages, just get it done. So in 2020, I revised it. So I didn't change anything, and I didn't want it to be book 2. So in the beginning of my book, once the first book is done, the next page says, from this page forward is my revised edition, because I didn't want to change anything in it.
Yeah.
And, it's so funny. Like, I laugh now and think I handwrote it because I couldn't do it any other way. And I'm thinking about what you ladies are talking about, oh, your computers and this and that and everything. And I'm like, no. But,
That's incredible.
yeah, listen, to this day, I give God all the glory, because there's no way he didn't write this book. No way. And I'll share one last thing with you about it. I didn't know why I was writing the book. So it got published immediately, and my cousins already got their orders from Amazon and Simon & Schuster, and they're sending me pictures holding my book, my New York cousins, Petitos. I'm waiting for my shipment, and I didn't know it, but this book was going to help save 2 cousins' lives. Yes, I didn't know it. So we could talk off the air about all that, but I got a call from one of them living in Florida saying, oh, read some of your poems for me. And I didn't know it, but he was doing crystal meth as we were talking, and he ended up almost dying 2 nights later, and I had to intervene. So he's doing great now. But yeah, so there's always a reason. So never say never, and always follow your instincts and your dreams. I'm going to let Doc G talk a minute, then I'm going to give you guys the mic back, and then I'm going to read a poem out of my book, okay? So Doc G, what would you like to say?
Yeah, ladies, again, you're both amazing, and I hope that there's some ways that we can either work together. I always look for that for people, to try to help them in their endeavors and what they're trying to do in life. I'm a former musician, former songwriter, almost up for a Grammy Award. So I'm so excited just to help anybody that needs any help. So if Jerry or I or the station can do anything for you, just reach out to Jerry or John Bishop. He's got my information, and we'll be glad to help you in any way, especially when you're publishing books. If you need more authors, we got people that want to look for publishing, and there's so many different ways that we can shake hands and work together as companies that help each other. I didn't know you had a company, by the way, Danielle. That's really interesting. It's called Fireflies, is it?
Firefly Hill Press.
Okay, cool. So, all right, send me that information if you can.
Well,
you can send it to admin, ADMIN, at hamiltonradio.net.
Okay,
it's really simple. ADMIN at hamiltonradio.net. Both you ladies are amazing. I wish you the best. For whatever your endeavors are, of course, in writing new books and movies or songs or whatever it is. But you're both wonderful, and I'm glad to be here and have Jerry be part of this today. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I'm going to give the mic back to you guys. We've got a few minutes left. So let's start with you, Danielle, and then we'll get to Beth. So each take a few minutes, closing words, anything. I don't want you to get off saying, I forgot to talk about this. We have time, so go ahead.
No, I actually just want to, your story was amazing, Jerry, and just both of you being so incredibly open and, welcoming for us on the show, but also, beyond the show, I think that is a message that hopefully listeners can take away too, is that there's enough room at the table for everybody. And I think that we all should be kind of lifting each other up and helping to support. And it doesn't have to be an element of competition where we're tearing each other down. I really, firmly believe as a teacher, it's what I try and tell my students, but the humanity in it that's why we write. We want to bring happy, smiley, moments to people, but we also add that depth so that there's some kind of connection. But you touched somebody with your words, a lot of somebody's, Jerry, with your words. And, that was very evident in the story that you told, because words matter. And I think that's just such an incredible invitation for you guys to, as I said, offer your hand out to, whatever we might need and, collaborate in the future. It's just a very cool communal thing that I think more creatives and more people need to really jump into. So I think that's awesome, and what a takeaway. So thank you for having us. I know Beth is going to take a moment too, but we're just really grateful to have the platform and the opportunity to talk about our work. We really have loved writing together. We keep saying that no matter how many no's have come our way, that was what brought me to the point about Beth and being so tenacious, is that at the end of the day, we love writing. So if we're going to get the nose, we're going to try and pivot and maybe figure out a different way for us to write, or a different story, or a different avenue. But at the heart of it, we just want to keep writing and making stories and bringing some joy to others. So yeah, we really appreciate the platform. Thank you so much for having us.
Beth?
Yeah, well, I definitely echo everything that Danielle said. Thank you so much for your time and your story, which was so interesting. And I'm really hoping that God steps in and helps us a little bit as we're finishing our newest book, because we'd like to wrap it up in the next couple days. So I don't know if we're going to get that same divine intervention, but that would be great, because we'd like to finally finish this project that we're working on. So fingers crossed. But just if people are interested in our books, they can check us out on Amazon as well. Every one of our titles should be there. So that's the Campfire series, which is 4 books. Once More Summer, S'more to Lose, Love You S'more, and Tell Me S'more. There's a standalone novel called Breakup Boot Camp. There is, of course, The Last Phone Booth in Manhattan. And then we have a forthcoming title with Mount Lake that'll be out June 25th called Heart Restoration Project. That book is really fun, a little more romance in it than Phone Booth, for people who want a little more of that happily ever after, about a woman who is kind of a fading D-list reality star, kind of in the vein of, the Kardashians, kind of grew up on TV, doesn't really know how to be anything else. And when the offers stop coming, she gets one final offer to be part of a DIY project show that's taking place in the Provence region of France, where they are going to be fixing up a dilapidated chateau called Heart Restoration Project. And she decides to go to France and, work on the chateau and film this reality show. And in the process kind of realizes she's actually sort of the restoration project, that there's a lot of stuff in her life she needs to fix and restore. And there's a romance, and there's a little bit of a backstory with the chateau having been involved in some stuff in the World War II, like French resistance. So we're really proud of it. We think it's another, fluff with stuff story. A lot of fun pop culture things similar to Phone Booth, but some deeper messages too. So that'll be out on June 25th, and people can pre-order it now. You can follow us on our social media, which is Merlin and Mod, or our website also, right, is merlinandmod.com. So
Modafferi is a mouthful, and it's really hard to spell for most people. So even my students call me Miss Mod. So we kind of shortened our little moniker to Merlin and Mod. Plus, it has like a little.
I like that, Merlin and Mod. I would have titled the show that.
Oh, right.
She never told me. Oh, that would have been so cool. So you teach in an all-girls school, you said?
I used to. I actually teach at a public co-ed school now. I'm a high school. I teach senior world literature this year for all my classes. So all the seniors getting ready to graduate.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. Before I read my poem, I just have a question about that. What was it like at an all-girls school?
It was remarkable. I really, really loved it. It was very small. Like one of the classes, their graduating class, actually my sister too. My sister is 11 years younger than I am. I was actually her junior and senior year English teacher when she was there. Her graduating class was, I think, 17 girls. So the smallest class I saw there while I was teaching there was 11, and the biggest was 29. So it was very communal, very family, like the little small family. They were like sisters, and it was really academically rigorous. I think the girls really took pride in learning. I felt like, this could be a whole tangent of a conversation, but they didn't seem inhibited the way that I see maybe them in more of a co-ed environment. They spoke up for themselves, and they weren't afraid to, oh, sorry about the bell, still at school, but weren't afraid to speak their mind, even if it was, a voice of a differing opinion. They would be very like forthcoming with it. And I really appreciated that. I feel like they tend to be a little bit more muted or a little bit more conscientious about what they say when the boys are around, or there's an element of that co-edness, and even with the boys too. But I really loved it. It was a great environment to teach in.
All right, so wait, I have one more question about that, and then we'll. Your sister, so you were her teacher.
I was.
Did she respect you as a teacher?
She did. I'm very lucky. I'm very close with my sister, and because of the age gap, I mean, she didn't really have too much of a choice. I do remember her being very awkward if she ever had to like call my name. She didn't know what to call me because she didn't want to call me Miss Modafferi. She's like, you're my sister, but she couldn't call me Danielle either. So she wouldn't answer unless I made eye contact with her. And then she'd be like, now I can answer, because she wouldn't like call over to me. She didn't know what to call me. But yeah, I taught her for her junior and her senior year. I was probably a little bit more of a scutch to her than maybe anybody else. Like, hey, did you do your homework? Did you read Crime and Punishment? She's like, do you call any of your other students to check on them? No,
That's pretty cool, though. Wow, I love that. So
It
now,
was very
what do you guys call each other, Maud and what?
Merlin and Maud.
Merlin and Maud. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to read this poem. It's called Utilizing Gifts and Talents. And I like to read this poem a lot because a lot of people will be listening and messaging me. I wish I could write like them. I wish I could do what they're doing. And, I want everybody out there to know that you all have something to offer. And
Absolutely.
you said something beautiful, like there's enough seats at the table. I mean, everybody should be helping each other, no matter what it is. And that, I think, we've lost that. Okay, we need to get that back, guys. But anyway, I want anyone out there maybe questioning their self-worth or what they have to offer, or feel like, I'm just going to say it, feel like maybe they're trash. You're not. Okay? Everyone has something great to offer. It's up to you to figure out what it is, though. So listen to the words if this is you. Utilizing gifts and talents. We are born with talents. We are born with drive, with different gifts to help us thrive. I knew early on I was born to draw and paint, to also write poetry, and to talk without restraint. Our gifts and talents should all be used. God's gift to us, not be abused. We can go far in life for sure, using our gifts to go on tour. All our talents should be used to create ourselves and more, but then our job's to share them, to even up the score. You see, in life what's needed is not just for ourselves. Once our gifts are mastered, take them off the shelves. A living we can make by spreading them around, but not just for the money, to spread a peaceful sound. Don't take for granted the gifts you're given. Go out and spread the joy. Our gifts are not to be held back for us to self-destroy. Put your efforts forth. Do not hesitate. All your talents, my friend, are never second rate. Never hold them back or you will surely die. Maybe not in body, but your soul will cry. Our gifts were made to share, our talents made to soar. Go through life enlightened and then you can roar. Be proud of who you are. Be happy you're alive. Once again, my friend, your gifts will help you thrive. By putting efforts forth, not keeping them at bay, your names will live forever, forever and a day. So go through life excited for what you sure can give. To yourself and others is our reason to live. Our grave will be quite lonely, but our legacy lives on. So make sure people smile with the breaking dawn. And ladies, that's what you're doing, okay? I know this is going to sound really silly, but you made me smile the second I saw the cover of your book, okay?
Thank you so much.
When John and Lenny reached out to me, I would have said yes no matter what your book was. Of course, I love interviewing authors. It doesn't matter. But I was like, I have to have them.
Well, thank you. We
Very
felt the
cool.
same way, and we felt so comfortable. We didn't really know what to expect in terms of the interview. Everyone has kind of a different interviewing style, but you were right. When we spoke before, feel very comfortable, and it was just such a wonderful experience. So, and that poem is beautiful. It's exactly what we hope to share with others. So,
Yes.
I love that. Thank you.
So, ladies, I want to thank you for honoring me. Again,
Thank
a
you.
shout out to Johnny B. and Lenny. Listen, I love you guys. Thanks for this connection. Check out their books, please, 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 okay? Trust me. If there's any New Yorkers out there listening, you need that book, okay, baby? You need that book, all right? The Last Phone Booth in Manhattan. Please get it, all right? Very cool. And Doc G, thank you for sitting in with me. And
Thanks, Doc G.
this
Thank
went
you
well.
so much, Steve.
Yeah, and take us home.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Love's the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
If